everyone, welcome back to Rolling Solo. My name is Adam Smith, and in this preview, we're going to be checking out Kingdom Rush Elemental Uprising from Lucky Duck Games. Now, many of you are familiar with the first entry in the Kingdom Rush series from Lucky Duck Games called Rift in Time. This is going to shake things up, and it is its own standalone game as well. So what we'll be doing in this video is going over some of the key features of what you'll find in difference to the original Kingdom Rush versus Elemental Uprising, and we'll also go through a full playthrough here of scenario number 1 to give you an idea of how some of these mechanics actually work inside the gameplay. So first, I'll just go ahead and touch on a few different areas that are different in Elemental Uprising. You're going to find 5 asymmetrical new characters inside of Uprising, and Ulrich is one of them, one of the characters I'll be controlling in this playthrough, along with Bruxa on the opposite side of the table, and each of them have unique new passive abilities for these characters, as well as differences in terms of how they operate, and we're going to see those in action as we go through the playthrough. Let's move over to the different types of towers that can be built in Uprising. Here we have a look at all the new towers inside of Elemental Uprising. It's worth noting that these are in columns, and each of these will start at level 1 and then upgrade to the one above it, and you'll see benefits start to increase on each of them. I won't go over all the iconography right now, as we're going to see them in action very soon. A new addition for Elemental Uprising are these very interesting tiles placed around the scenarios. You'll see here this is a magical blossom. There's actually 3 of them in this scenario. In other scenarios, you'll find fissures and volcanoes. How they work is a hero can potentially land in this area and activate this blossom, flipping it over to its wilted side. And we'll talk about these later, but Sand Warriors are also a new addition and come with Ulrich. He can use them, and they can also interact with these magical blossoms. And the cool thing about them is once you interact with them, you now have the option to put 2 1-by-1 damages from long range, which means literally anywhere on the game board, and they are true damage on 2 different horde tiles. So basically you place 1 here and 1 here. Now, of course, I haven't flipped these cards over because I don't want to know what's underneath them just yet for the playthrough, but you just make sure that you split them up like so, and these can come in really, really handy. In the original Kingdom Rush, your primary way to increase what you had in your hand for options and make them more powerful over time was to spend crystals or to upgrade your towers to better iterations of themselves. However, in Elemental Uprising, you have that, but now you have another element on top of it, and that's all around coins. As soon as you take out one of the horde tiles that happens to have coins, you will gain those coins. Once you have 2 of them, you can then exchange the coins in to pick up an improvement, and this is going to be a sticker in the final version, one that's able to be put on and removed easily, and you literally stick whatever improvement you want on whichever one of these towers you want, so long as it does not have an icon with the bag crossed out like this one for the ranger down here in the bottom right, saying that you cannot go ahead and add anything to this particular card. So to sum up what you can improve and what you can't improve, as there's a couple other icons we need to go over, the ones I just talked about in terms of the inventory bag with the cross through it, which would be these 3 right here, cannot be improved whatsoever by spending gold. All these other 3 columns can be, and the bonus is this one right here has an inventory bag here with a plus beside it, which basically means not only can you improve it once, but that extra one means you get to improve it twice if you wish. So taking a look at the 4 improvements that I have available to me in the prototype, the final version will likely have quite a few more. You can see here one of them is strictly around true damage. That is a really nice one to have, as that's going to take regular damage, physical or magical, and bump it up to the highest level, able to hit the nastiest of foes. We also have another one here for a soldier to go out in one of 3 different directions. That's a nice one. This one is really perfect shot or perfect range. So basically you can make that attack from long distance, which is fantastic. And then this one right here is really cool because you can actually orientate this particular arrow in whichever way you choose, having it angled straight up and down to the side like this, or fully on a 90-degree turn, and you get 1 rotatable damage type of a 2-by-1 to throw down, which is pretty nice. You'll also find some different types of damage tiles that are very new and work differently than the original Kingdom Rush. We'll definitely talk about those, but we'll leave those to the playthrough to see them in action. Final things you can expect to find in Elemental Uprising are things like progressing through a story-driven campaign with a prologue and 12 scenarios. So you'll see certain cards come through that are going to add some narrative to what's really going on in the scenario, and also just an understanding of what's to come. Sometimes it just gives you a heads up on the type of monster you're about to go up against and really how you're going to have to defeat it as these new elements are introduced. Also within the game, you're going to find huge bosses, and this you'll see in more detail on the Kickstarter page, and these things are going to definitely throw some serious challenges at you. A new infinitely replayable game mode is also being added into the game, which should really spice things up, and that pretty much sums up the majority at a high level of the changes to Elemental Uprising, but you still haven't seen everything yet, and you really need to see the playthrough to get a full understanding of all the different mechanics behind how these towers, the damage types, the abilities and effects all have on this game. So without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about the win conditions, starting with a victory condition card. It's called Stop the Hordes for scenario number 1. As you can see on the scenario card, I've already gone ahead and placed the 5 hearts, letting us know that our kingdom has just 5 health. Going into this scenario, it says the round in which the last horde card is spawned is the final round. And then at the end of that round, all hordes left in play are going to advance until they reach the kingdom. And if the kingdom survives, you win. This is going to be really interesting because it's going to all come down to, can I cover up enough of whatever's left over in that final round to keep whatever's coming towards the kingdom from taking it down. There are multiple levels of difficulty inside of Kingdom Rush. You can choose to go to 1-star difficulty, a 2-star, a 3-star, and even above average at that point, another 2 levels. However, for this playthrough, I'm going to stick at the 3-star difficulty, which is right smack dab in the middle. And when we're doing this, we actually remove 2 coins from the setup and 2 crystals. So I'm going to just end up here from the pool you're seeing with just 2 crystals remaining to start. Now that we know what our objective is to win, we are now going to go ahead and reveal all of the horde tiles in play. The horde trees are now revealed, and we should probably talk about what we're seeing coming towards our kingdom. And these are going to be moving along the path, and as you'll notice on the very bottom of each of these trays, there's a very, very thin line. It's in purple and green. You always want to make sure that these are on the bottom of the tray, and they will always stay on the bottom as they shuffle down the path. This ensures that you're not twisting them or turning them around corners. So now that we know what is coming towards our kingdom, how do we take these things down, and why should we focus on some versus others? We have 3 different types of enemies across these 3 trays. The first one, that's the most obvious, is the one that has an insane amount of them. They're these 1x1 regular unit or foes that are coming after us, and really just to deal with them is a single 1x1 grid per, and you are safe. Or you could do some big time splash damage or many other types of damage within the game to take these things out and cover them up. If when one of these trays happens to move into your kingdom, if a single one of these is exposed, that is 1 hit worth of damage. So you do want to cover all these up. You don't want to let them slide into your kingdom. Essentially moving them into your kingdom is having them move from here to here, and then another movement from here into the kingdom, which is this tile that our heroes are standing on ready to run out the doors and defend. So that is the 1x1s, and the reason why we should keep an eye on them, because it's just strength in numbers mentality. This one here is a large monster. It has 4 different areas we need to cover. If a single area or more is exposed when this tile moves into the kingdom, it hits us for 4 damage. So you could cover 3 of the 4 spaces. Doesn't matter if there's 1 corner remaining open and it comes through to the kingdom, that's 4 damage. We only have 5. You don't want that to happen. The last type of enemy revealed that we should talk about is the ones that have these speed icons attached to them. They are nasty because if you don't take care of them by covering them up with some damage, when it gets to the phase where you move the trays still left on the path, this tray is going to move 2 times as fast as the rest of them. So for instance, if we were beginning the movement of the trays right now and I hadn't put any damage on all 3 of these, this one right here would actually move here, taking up this space as it's the closest one to the kingdom. So you activate this one first. This one, which has speed, would move here because this area would be empty. Then it would move a second time because I didn't cover the speed icons, but there's already a tray here that moved over, so it would actually bounce right into the kingdom. And that's the reason why those trays are nasty. They move quick and they hop right over. Final thing to mention is that I've gone ahead and set a particular color or tower associated with each of the characters I'm controlling. In this scenario, I am playing with two characters. You can see there's purple and there's green. I've selected green to be controlled by Ulrich, so he will be able to deploy towers on only the green ones. And we have Bruxa on the other side who will only be able to deploy towers on the purple ones. So to start things off for Ulrich, we're going to go ahead and grab starting towers based on the number of players. In this case, because I'm controlling two, I'm essentially playing two players. So I'm going to get a Hunter Arbor, as well as a Defender Barracks and a Stone Circle, which I've grabbed. When you're starting up at the beginning of the game, you don't want to forget to also grab the activation tile for your hero as well. So in total, I'll have 4 cards. For Bruxa, we've gone ahead and grabbed her starting 3 cards, and again, I'll be also grabbing the activation card for her as well. Alright, let's find out whether Ulrich and Bruxa can take out all of these enemies coming towards the kingdom in Kingdom Rush Elemental Uprising. The first phase of the game is to spawn new heroes, but you don't do this in round number 1 because, well, we already flipped over the hordes set up by the scenario. That's as much as you need to do in the first phase. Second phase, we now can play tower cards and hero cards at will. Before we get started, I gotta take advantage of a start of the game effect here for Ulrich. This is a really good one. It allows me to go ahead, even right now, or when he rests and recovers, to place 2 of these sand warriors in the same space as where he's currently located. And right now he is in the kingdom, so it'd be right here. And then those sand warriors can move independently of the hero and can actually go after blossoms and interact with them, as I mentioned earlier. They can also end up on the same horde tile potentially as a hero. If they do that, or if you choose to use them in that capacity, you'll be able to give defense, as it notes down here at the bottom, to help the hero avoid damage. So if you use these strategically, they can really come in handy. The only thing about them though is they don't block damage coming to themselves, so 1 hit is all it takes to wipe one of them out. So first up, I have the decision, being that I'm playing two-handed with 2 characters. I can choose to activate Bruxa first or Ulrich first, or I can use a tower before I use a hero. Like, I have a full choice here in terms of how I want to activate things, which makes the strategic options open up quite a bit. But I'm going to probably lean towards my typical path, which is using heroes first to see what they can do in terms of their great abilities, and then trying to fill in the cracks with the tower cards. I might need to change that strategy up as I go, depending on how nasty this gets, but we're going to start by activating Ulrich. So I'll take the card from hand, I'm going to place this on the player board to pick. We've activated him, and I'm going to move Ulrich into a position that makes the most sense and use his basic attack. So Ulrich has gone ahead and done the first thing for his activation, and that is movement. He has a movement allocation of 3 boots right here with some wings, so he can move up to 3 spaces. Placed him right on top of the large monster. I've orientated him the way I want to, because his is melee. He's dealing damage to the horde he's currently in the same space with. So when you do his basic attack, which is what I chose to do after I moved, I simply place a 2x1 in any orientation I choose. So I chose to just put it right there and cover up those 2, and another single one, and I chose to take out another one over there. That's it. Quite straightforward. However, with Bruxa, as I mentioned, her placement is going to be really key. Now, on a hero turn in general, you have other things you can do. I've technically done everything I can do with Ulrich at this point. The first thing you always do when you activate a hero is your movement, and then the next thing you do is your choice. You can either activate a basic action, which is what I did, or you can activate a special ability if you happen to have one. In this first scenario, we don't have access to any of our special abilities, so that will never be an option. And the third option is to recover, which will allow me, as Ulrich, to boost my health back up to full, which we'll be doing a couple times through this, and also allow me to bring back my sand warriors into the game. So now you've seen a typical hero activation, but Ulrich is anything but typical. He has the ability to move and use his Sand Warriors. So when do those actually get moved? Well, when Ulrich moved from the kingdom out to this tile before he decided to then go ahead and do a basic attack, that's when the 2 Sand Warriors should have gone about their movement. So I'm doing this retroactively as I wanted to show you what a regular hero activation looks like. You always move first, then you choose if you want to do a basic attack, a special ability, or recover. But you don't want to forget about those Sand Warriors when using Ulrich. So at this point now, just a tad bit out of sequence, just before we place this damage, I'm now going to move these Sand Warriors into a position that I think makes a lot of sense. And there we go, Ulrich's Sand Warriors are working already, taking out that unit, and this one back here is actually one of the ones with speed, so that's certainly going to help things out. Next up, I'm going to use a tower from Ulrich, and I'm going to place it right here. This one's called Stone Circle, and this is a new damage type that does some pretty cool stuff. So basically, it's going to do a 1/1 damage in those 3 directions. So it's going to do 1 damage over here, and I'm going to actually place this one like so it covers up one of those speed icons, and then the other one I'm going to shoot in the same location as my hero over here, and I'll cover up this one over here in the corner. You'll notice that there is an arrow that goes over to here, but there's nothing to hit. Next up, Ulrich is going to use another green tower. Those are the only ones that he can use with the tower cards he has, and he's going to place this hunter one here, and I can go ahead. This is a really interesting one, so I'm going to talk about it quite quickly, but essentially I can choose to go ahead and place this here, which will do me nothing and can't be placed there. Here, which will do something for me, is it would cover up these 2 spaces as that tile is rotatable completely, or I can shoot over here, which doesn't have any purpose for me. But also, additionally, inside of Elemental Uprising, you'll see right here a perfect range symbol or icon. Basically what this means is if you want to have perfect range, in other words, have this hunter make a really long distance shot, you can take away one of the spaces from this 2 spacer here. So basically bring it down from a 2x1 to a 1x1 in order to place it from a far distance, which is pretty useful in certain situations. But right now, I'm pretty happy to place it right there. So that works out really well because I have one of my Sand Warriors in here with Ulrich, which means when we defeat this tray and 1 damage is normally dealt to Ulrich, it's not going to actually do damage to my hero because I have a Sand Warrior in there. So at this point, Ulrich only has 1 card left, the Defender Barracks card. I'm thinking about passing this over to Bruxa in order to upgrade it. We'll talk about that in a second. So right now, instead, I'm going to activate Bruxa and move forward with getting her out on the board. So I'll use her character card here. Now, she has an ability that triggers the second you activate her. However, the first round when you activate her, nothing really happens with that ability. You'll see how this all builds up with her and how she's used positionally in terms of where she's facing, also with the tokens that she has and how she uses those tokens to let out a barrage of damage. So Bruxa has activated and moved into position. I've orientated her so she's actually facing this way. The reason I've done this is because she does ranged attacks, unlike Ulrich, who does melee attacks in the same horde tray. So she's going to do, if I decide to do it, a basic attack, and she can actually shoot straight ahead or off on angles and has a 2x1 damage, which can be rotated in any direction, meaning she won't be placing it in here. She'll actually be shooting it over here, as nothing here or over here can potentially be hit. It's also worth noting that she has a total of 3 movement. I just didn't want to use it. I wanted to deal with the tiles that are closest to the kingdom, plus stopping those enemies that had that speed icon on them. Bruxa is going to go ahead and place Stone Circle, allowing her to place a 1x1 on this tile here and 1 over here. Next up, I'm going to place a Mystic from Bruxa. I'm going to place it right here. This is going to allow me to have a rotating L-shaped icon. I'll place it in a situation that's not going to be the most optimal, as there's 3 right here and 1 there, so this L is not going to cover up everything the way I'd like it. So for now, I'll just go ahead and place it like so. So there's still 2 remaining spots we need to deal with. Next, I'm going to use Ulrich's last card in hand, Defender, placing it on top of the card that was here, because if it's a soldier-based card, if it's the first one that is placed down, you can still build on top of it. These are really interesting cards in that you can place a soldier card on top of one of the other types of towers, or you could even have it come first, but you can't have any more than one on top. So this is going to allow me to bring out one of the soldiers into play, plus that soldier now has a special ability inside of Elemental Uprising for splash damage, which means it can hit something that's adjacent to it as well. So not only do I get to go ahead and place a soldier out into the fray over here like so, I get to do some splash damage over to this side of things, and that will allow me to potentially, with the one card I have remaining, clear up this tile. So what I'm planning to do next is use the exact same card from Bruxa, and I'm going to use it over on this side, and I'm going to use it to place a soldier here, and the splash damage on this side, that'll clear these two tiles when we start removing them. So overall, that worked out pretty good. I was actually planning on keeping a card or two in hand to potentially pass in order to upgrade that card and place it in the incoming towers section, but I was really focused on knocking at least two of these trays out in the first round. Normally, when these things spawn every round, they're going to bring a single card or a new horde each, which is two at a time. I really didn't want to have two new ones coming in if I've only taken out one. I would get into a situation where I'd have a lot of different tiles or horde tiles to deal with at once. So taking it two at the beginning, I think, is a good strategy. All right, so one at a time, we're going to destroy the trays, starting with one closest to the kingdom here. Now, I'll go ahead and just remove my hero for now, but all of this damage is going to come off, including this Sand Warrior, which is going to be removed, unfortunately. The only way I can bring that Sand Warrior back is if I choose to recover as part of Ulrich's future turns. This damage is gone, and we're going to flip over this and find out what reward we get. It appears we're getting ourselves a nice shiny coin. Now, I did go ahead and move my hero over to this space. It didn't actually move. I just moved it so I could clear the tile. So the hero stays here. Now, normally when that tile is destroyed, as I mentioned, I would take a hit of damage to Ulrich, but thank goodness for those Sand Warriors. So no damage done there. So next up, we're going to take a look at Bruxa, who's up here, also has a Sand Warrior in her space. So all of this will be removed, including the Sand Warrior. She takes no damage, and we gain the rewards. Another gold coin is coming our way. So before we go ahead and talk about the final tray we need to resolve, I want to talk about how Bruxa is used, and this is going to tie into why she is so awesome. Basically, when horde trays are destroyed and Bruxa is on that tray or adjacent to it, you are going to go ahead and place a single token for each one over here. So as of right now, we have 2 tokens. Why does this matter? Well, at the beginning of the game, we didn't have any tokens. So when she started her activation in the kingdom, she had the ability, when we activated her by placing this here, to actually go ahead and throw down some serious damage based on how she was oriented in terms of which direction she was looking and where that damage could go. She didn't have any skull tokens at the time, so she couldn't pull this off, so I skipped it. But now we actually have some tokens, which is why I've gone ahead and made sure that I had her facing towards one of the tiles she'll be able to go after in the future. What's going to be interesting, though, is this tile's going to survive. It's going to end up shuffling and bouncing her down. And you can see here, based on how she can make use of this attack right here, it can go straight ahead or on an angle. So we should still be fine, even if she's down here facing this way, as she can still attack diagonally. And those skull tokens don't just give you that wonderful benefit of getting an extra 1x1 tile in any of these directions from range that you want per each token you have. Also, once you get to 4 and your track is completely full, you remove 3 of them, and then you're shooting some big time damage. So taking a look at the last tile we need to resolve, do we destroy this tile? No, we don't, because I did not cover every single enemy on this particular tile. So what does actually get removed is the soldier, as 1 damage is given to all soldiers. Just like the Sand Warriors died off, there's no way to stop this thing from being killed off, just like in the prior iteration of Kingdom Rush. But the damage we've placed on it here all stays. Moving into phase 4, it's simply going ahead and moving the trays down the path towards the kingdom, starting with the one closest to the kingdom, which there is only one, so it will be this one, and just ensuring that this line down here always stays at the bottom. The one thing that's interesting is once a hero is displaced, you can choose where that hero goes. I could place it on a tower, I could place it anywhere around here that I really want. So for now, knowing full well that if I place it here, this next card coming out is going to spawn here and bump again, or here would bump it again, I might as well just go ahead and maybe put her up here on top of this tower, and that will allow her to move off of it later and jump onto whatever situation she wants to go after. Next up, we're going to go ahead in phase 5 and pick up all towers and hero cards from the top of all of these. So again, remembering that Ulrich has placed everything on green, and that's how you remember which cards go back to Ulrich, and Bruxa has everything on purple. Also, don't forget to take the activation cards for your heroes in hand as well. Phase 6, the final phase, is to spend crystals and gold. I have 2 crystals, which means I could purchase any level 1 card, as the number of crystals it costs is always 1 more than the level of the card you're buying. So in this case, I could pick from one of these. I can also save my crystals and not buy anything and kind of save up towards one of the other ones. The other way you can upgrade up the path is take a card you have in hand, like a level 1, and as you could in the original game, pass it to the other player when you don't use it, and that will come in as an incoming tower and be upgraded to the next level. So you don't have to always spend crystals to boost yourself up. There's other ways, but then you're taking cards out of your hand that you're not going to be playing during that round, which certainly will impact your strategy as to how you handle all the trays of hordes going forward. I'm going to go ahead and spend my 2 crystals in order to gain this stone circle. I'm going to purchase this stone circle to go into Bruxa's hand, and I'm also going to spend 2 coins, the only coins that I have, to gain an improvement. And I'm going to place that improvement on this card, as it can be upgraded just once, because it doesn't have the bag symbol with the extra, meaning it can't be upgraded. If it happened to have the bag symbol with the plus, I could put 2 improvements on it, but I have to spend 4 coins to pull that off. Don't have that right now, so just 1 improvement's all I'm getting. I'm fine, I think, with taking this one, which I think will pair up with the stone circle quite nicely. The only thing you have to do with this one, which is quite nice, is choose which orientation you want the arrow to sit in. I think I'm going to set it up straight down the middle and just stick it on right here on the left-hand side. Just like that, we're all squared away and finished phase 6. We can now move to the next round, which begins with spawning new hordes. One correction I need to make is when I moved Bruxa off of the tile I was dealing with here, I put her up on the tower, but my actual plan was to bring her back down here and ensure she was facing in the same direction I had placed her on the tile to make sure that her attack can go diagonally at whatever's here. So I'm going to place her back down like this. No gameplay impact whatsoever. So at this point in time going forward, as we go through the rounds, we're going to speed things up a bit. We're gone through the learning round. There will be some things that are new, especially with the hordes that start coming out, so we'll slow down for those moments. And if we hit any types of damage or difference icons on the cards, I'll definitely go through those with you. But at this point in time, we're going to start speeding things up and seeing whether we can actually pull this victory off. So we begin our spawning from spawn point number 1. The first thing we have here is a bunch of enemies emerging from the jungle. They are quick and able to dodge most tower attacks. These types of enemies that are vulnerable just to soldiers must be covered by soldiers, heroes, or true damage tiles. The icon underneath depicts that we go ahead and do an immediate second spawn right now. And here they come. So we're definitely going to keep that card we pulled as a reference that only soldiers, heroes, and true damage tiles can take out these individuals right here. Spawn point number 2 has been put into position. We've seen these types of enemies before. That could be pretty nasty if we don't clear out these 2 trays right here. This time around, I'm actually going to activate Bruxa first by using her card. I'll place it right here, but first we'll read what happens when we activate her at the start. So for every token she has, which she has 2, thanks to taking 2 horde trays out on the last round, she's going to get a 1x1 token that she can place and shoot from range in any of these 3 directions based on her orientation. So let's check out how she's facing and what she could potentially hit. So as I mentioned before, I have her oriented this way. She can hit things over here, here, and here. I'm going to choose to have her attack this area right here, but she cannot place her damage on on these ones, as she doesn't have a soldier, a hero, or true damage with that specific type of damage she's placing right now. So I do get 2 1x1s. I'll just go ahead and cover up a couple of the regular units. So she's done her damage in these 2 spots. Now I'm going to have her actually move into this tile and then do her basic attack into this tile for a 2x1. And that 2x1 that she used can be rotated in any way she wants, so she's placing it down there at the very bottom. Next up, I'm going to go ahead and activate Ulrich, and he is going to go from this location over here. He is going to sit right on top of 3 of these enemies, and 2 of them are ones that came out fresh. These enemies that are vulnerable to soldiers, as well as heroes and true damage. Also, because sand warriors are considered to also be soldiers, those can be used in order to cover these up, and I plan to do that. So I'm placing him here like so. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose, at this point in time, instead of doing a basic attack, I'm going to choose to recover, which immediately allows the Sand Warriors to show up in the same space as Ulrich. And when they do that, it's going to allow me to go ahead and cover these 2 spaces up just like this. Next, I'm going to have Bruxa go ahead and use the stone circle. You can see here the icon. I talked about this earlier in the video. Basically, whenever these go on, it's really awesome because this rock has what's called a blast around it, which is an effect. And that means everywhere this arrow points in all 3 directions, that 1x1 is going. You've seen this in the prior round, but that blast can also actually be on arrows for splash damage potentially. This is an example of one that does not have that. It's just a regular arrow, but the arrow for splash damage could potentially have a blast radius around it on some of the more powerful ones, likely when you get up to level 3 and 4 and so on. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to place 1 here for one of the rocks, 1 over here, and then I get to place a 2x1 in this location in any orientation I want. Damage has been placed. Next up, we're going to use the stone circle from Ulrich. I'm going to place this one right here. And this is going to allow me to place 1 more damage here and 1 more damage over here. Next, I'm going to place Ulrich's defender barracks right on top here to put a soldier into play here and some splash damage over here. Next, I'm going to place this hunter card way over here, and on the angle here, I'm going to use it for 2 hits right there. Ulrich is now completely out of cards, so it's up to Bruxa to try and clear these 2 tiles. That's my goal, at least in this one, is try and get 2 of these tiles out of here again. So we're going to go ahead and place this one right here. This is a straightforward one, straight in the line, and it's going to be a perfect spot right here. I can rotate this L any way I want, but it already lines up beautifully, so we'll go ahead and fill that in. This next usage isn't the most optimal, as when I place this here, I only get to put 1 damage over here, but still I am trying to complete this, so it's worth it to me. And with the final card for Bruxa, I'm going to go ahead and place this one right here, being that it is a soldier, and it's going to come out, and I'll actually place the soldier on top of one of these speed icons just to deal with it, although it won't be sitting there very long as it'll be eliminated. But what I wanted from that is the splash damage that comes over to an adjacent tile, and that will cover up this one right here, allowing me to clear these 2 tiles. So things are going to pan out a bit differently this time because there are no Sand Warriors in the spot with Bruxa in order to protect her. So yes, she will be successful, as plus all the damage we've added to it to clear this tile, but she will be taking some damage. So I'll be dropping her health by 1. The reward we gain from this is a single gem. This one allows me to choose whether I want a coin or a gem, and I'm going to probably go with the gem. Ulrich's tree has been cleared. Just grabbed 2 gems for both of those, and also his Sand Warriors helped him from taking a hit of damage, but poor Bruxa got hit for the first time. Now we're going to go ahead and do some moving of the trays. This soldier's not going to last and will be removed from here, and unfortunately it doesn't stop the speed of the movement of this tray, which will move 2 positions. So I'm going to go ahead and have Ulrich move to this location right here, and this tray is going to move down, and then it's going to try to move over here and bump her out of the way, and I'll put her up here. Now I want to think about the orientation here. She was like this, so I'll place her like this, and we'll go ahead and move to the 2nd position. Bruxa has also gone ahead and been on or adjacent to 2 more tiles that were taken out, so a skull for each of them, which means the next time her passive ability underneath triggers, we're not only going to get the benefit of the top section, but also the bottom section as well. With all cards back in hand, let's go ahead and spend these 2 crystals. I'm going to go ahead and spend 2 crystals and pick up the Mystic card. Aldrich was the receiver of that Mystic card. It's now in his hand. We're going to go ahead and spawn number 1 here, and we have some enemies coming into this position in a new tray, and up top in this position we have, ooh, that's aggressive. Now this is going to get interesting. Now I still have these blossoms around that I could use to do targeted true damage to these types of enemies, these green ones. So going into this area and activating this could be an option, but I've also kind of got a lot to deal with here. It's going to be interesting because I got a lot of speedy runners up here, plus a ton in the back. So this is going to be a little bit tricky to spread out my damage in an effective way. I think the first person I want to activate is going to be Bruxa. I'm going to go ahead and have her character activate and get her passive ability going. So for every token she has from where she's standing, she can do a ranged attack to a tile and do a single 1x1. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 single 1x1s, which is impressive. And then if she has 4 of these skull tokens, which she does, she removes 3 of them. So I'll be taking 3 away from her board, and I can then do a 2x1 worth of damage in any orientation from these 3 different angles. So there's her damage spread as chosen by myself. Hopefully that actually works out for me. Next, I'm going to go ahead and move her. I'm definitely going to place her right on top here. It'll block up some of the speed icons, plus some of those wonderful individuals, those enemies that are vulnerable to heroes and soldiers and true damage. So we'll place her right here. We're going to face her actually, I might face her this way this time. And by doing so, I'm going to probably do a basic attack this way. And I can either hit this tray or this tray from range. And I'm probably going to hit this tray with a 2x1. She can be really, really useful. And that's going to continue to power up. But as of right now, I do have to remove the 3 skull tokens. And I'm going to activate Ulrich. He is going to go ahead. I'm going to have him move 2 spaces. So he's going to go here and then here. I'm going to have him plant just like this. I'm then going to choose for him to recover, which is going to allow me to bring back my Sand Warriors. I'm going to have 1 sit right here, and the other one I'm going to actually choose to go ahead and move over to the Blossom that is sitting in this tower. They can activate a Blossom if they're in their same space. I flip it over, and I get 2 of these long shot 1x1 damage tokens that do true damage. I gotta admit, that is pretty good for just activating my 2 heroes and also using the Sand Warriors from Ulrich. I've already placed a bunch of damage, cleared an entire tile back here. I don't have to worry about it anymore. And now I have all of my cards in hand to start building up some nice towers to do some damage. So usually what I find with Bruxa that's awesome is she basically helps you to allow you to upgrade your cards. By the end of this, I may still have some cards in hand. I can start doing some passing between my characters. So here is the plan. I'm going to be doing a lot of card upgrades by passing this turn, which is sweet. So first off, Ulrich is going to spend this Hunter one here, and he's going to shoot this one 2 arrows over to this section right here. Next, Bruxa is going to spend this card right here, Mystic, allowing her to put an L-shaped token on this tile in any orientation. And Bruxa is going to use this card right here in order to do a 2x1 worth of damage plus a regular single, and that's going to be enough to deal with this whole area right here. So what's awesome is you can see not only tied with Bruxa's amazing ability to drop a bunch of damage and cover a bunch of this card, we won't take this one out on purpose. I have 5 more cards between the 2 characters in hand to spend, but I'm not going to spend them because I want to do a mass upgrade right now and take advantage of her big time damage she did, because we still got 2 tiles off the table. All the damage that I want to place is done. Now let's go ahead and take a look over at the market worth of towers and do some upgrading. Ulrich has 3 cards in hand, a Defender card, which he's going to cash in order to take a Warden card, a Mystic card, which he will take the level 2 iteration of that up here, and a Stone Circle to grab the Boulder card level 2 above. So I'm going to take all 3 of those cards, flip them face down, and place them in the incoming towers section of Bruxa's player board. Now from Bruxa's leftover hand, she has a Defender Barracks. She's going to cash in to bump up to the Warden Barracks, and a Stone Circle to bump up to the Boulder Circle. As you can see, we've gone ahead and exchanged cards, upgraded them, and they're going to be coming in to us on the next turn, which is awesome to have 5 cards go from level 1 to level 2. Now let's remove some horde trays. I've already gone ahead and removed this one as there was nothing on there but damage, and we gain a gold coin from it. Next up, this tray is not going to be removed whatsoever. There's also no soldiers on this one, so we don't have to worry about losing any. This just stays put for now, but will eventually move. This one over here, however, is going to be taken out. We'll gain some rewards. Thankfully, there was one Sand Warrior on this one, so that one Sand Warrior is killed off. We still have one over here. This one is a choice between gold or a crystal, and I'm going to probably choose the gold as we have one other gold, which means we'll be able to grab new improvement. Last thing we need to do is not forget to gain 2 skull tokens for Bruxa because we took out 2 horde trays. One she was on, so she gains a skull token for that. The other she was adjacent to because adjacency in Kingdom Rush is anything orthogonal and diagonal. Next phase, all the remaining trays start moving along the path. Alright, so taking a look at my 2 characters' cards, Ulrich and Bruxa. It looks like Ulrich only has 3 cards in hand because Bruxa hasn't passed as many. Bruxa has 5. So I'm going to go ahead and spend the 2 coins on upgrading one of Ulrich's cards. I'm going to upgrade one of the ones that was recently leveled up, the Boulder Circle. This is going to be really handy because remember, this type of damage is going to be done as blast damage, which means it's going to be done across all 3 of these different directions for a 2x1 already, which is super powerful. So what I'm going to do is spend 2 coins to get a true damage icon and place it over top of the icon of the type of damage this does. And now it's time to do some spawning going into the next round. So from the first position we have, oh my gosh, look at all the speed. Taking a look at the next spawn point, what do we have here? A purple card. Ooh, this one reads, we have Magma Elementals. These big molten brutes are incredibly tough. Each time a tough enemy is covered by an attack, at most 1 square of the damage tile of the miniature is allowed to cover it. So essentially, doesn't matter how much damage we do, and in this case, for those types of enemies, it's probably better to do a whole bunch of hits that are just 1x1s, because then you're actually getting the most bang for your buck. But if you're doing a big 2x2, for instance, or something like that, that's a 4 grid, only one of those squares can rest on top of these creatures because they're tough. So it's going to take a lot of individual attacks in order to bring these things down. So that doesn't spell well for us because the next thing it says to do is grab another spawn card. So let's find out what's coming at us now. This is not good. Oh yeah, of course, here they come. And they're going to be landing in the spot where my heroes are. All right, things are looking interesting now. We've definitely got some big brutes coming along the way. And again, these enemies are specific to Elemental Uprising. These elementals we're going to want to take down. So I like the idea of activating Bruxa first just to see what type of damage she's capable of pulling off. Right now she has 3 skull tokens. So again, that's not her max, which means she's just going to be able to place the 1x1s in the 3 different directions in front of her. So basically here or here, and she can divide those 3 up however she chooses. So she's dropped her damage down. Now I'm going to go ahead and do some movement with her. Now the thing to keep in mind is I am 1 hit away from losing her and I don't want to have her go down. So I'm going to have her move into a place that makes sense to probably cover up the individuals over here that are taken up or need true damage to take down. And then I'm going to probably recover so I can bring my health back up. So let's go ahead and have her move into this location. Now the biggest question is, how do I want to orient, like how do I want to position her? Do I want to face her a certain way? I'm thinking that this tray is going to be gone soon. So I definitely probably, I don't even know if this is right, but probably like this, I want to say is probably the safest. So we'll go with that. And again, I'm going to recover right now. So I'm bringing her health off camera back up to full. She's done. And now we can consider what we can do with Ulrich and the 1 Sand Warrior that he has with him. So Ulrich and the Sand Warrior are going to hop down and they're going to land these positions. I'm going to place him here. He's covering up a couple of individuals that are quite tricky, and this is part of my plan. And then another one, because this is going to be super useful from keeping my heroes from taking any damage when this trait is removed, so that's good. And I'm happy with that. I think the next thing I'm going to do with Ulrich, because I know he's safe, he's at full health, I'm going to do a basic attack with him. So we're going to hit a couple of these individuals. And now we can start deciding how we want to use our towers to take things down. This could be really interesting because I could potentially go heavy on just taking out these two tiles and very light on going after these big guys and do a lot of upgrading again just to make my cards even more powerful. I'm going to go ahead and have Bruxa place the warden tile just like this. This is going to allow me to place 2 soldiers out, which is perfect. So I'll place 1 soldier right here to cover that one up and another soldier right here to cover this one up, and I get 1 splash damage over to the side as well. So that's a nice little hit. We'll just go ahead and place that down here. Next up, I'm going to go ahead and play the Boulder Circle, the one that I upgraded to have true damage. It's going to be a 2x1 that can go here and also here thanks to the blast. Damage has been placed. I'm really happy about this because my 2x1 fits perfectly in here, and they have 2 more left to do. And then over here, I can do a perfect 1 hit on each of these tough enemies without going over their limits, because again, I could not take a 2 like this and place it across 2 of the 4 spaces. I can only hit 1 of the areas at a time with each attack. So that one allows me to hit 1 of each, which is pretty nice. Next up, Bruxa is going to go ahead and place this right here. This boulder one's going to do a 2 over here. I'm going to go ahead and probably place it right there. And then the last 2 will go over here, making sure that this has been fully defeated. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and have Bruxa place this Mystic on top of the Warden Barracks, as I'm allowed to do, and this is going to allow me to place an L formation, which I will place right on top of that to ensure that both of these tiles are taken care of. So all of that worked out perfectly. I still have 4 cards in hand, 2 for each character, and instead, which I could, well, actually I can't, because this particular tile is so far back that there's only, I think, 1 card in hand that I could really, truly do any damage to one of those tough enemies, and that would be to play the Hunter really far away and then reduce this 2x1 to a single 1x1 to do a perfect long shot from distance, and that would allow me to put some damage on, but that's not worth it to me. I'd rather pass these 2 cards that Ulrich has, so the Warden and the Hunter will be passed and upgraded, and then on the opposite side for Bruxa, she has the Stone Circle and the Arcanist. And the interesting thing about these 2 that I want to mention is I've got the improvement on the 1. You might think that you pull the improvement off and then put it on the next level when you do your pass, but it actually stays on the improvement you have. You leave it there in the market and you can acquire it later when you level up. So the 2 cards we just talked about from Bruxa are being updated. The Stone Circle with the improvement goes into the market. She is going to gain this Boulder card, which again technically is going to go into the incoming towers on Ulrich. And then this one here, the 2nd level, is going to be upgraded to the Eldridge, which is way at the very top, which is pretty awesome to have a level 3 in there. Both of these are now being flipped over and placed in the incoming towers for Ulrich. So what does Ulrich have in hand that he wants to pass? He's going to pass the Hunter card, which is a level 1. He's happy to do that and bump up to a Watcher. And then the Warden, which is a 2nd level barracks, is going to go to the highest level barracks. That will certainly be useful. So let's destroy some horde trays. So this one is a cleanup that's quite easy. We'll remove everything off and take the rewards. Coin or crystal? I think I'm going to actually go with the crystal. This other tray over here, thankfully, is protected by this Sand Warrior, so my heroes in both positions here will not take any damage, but this tile is going to be completely removed, including the Sand Warrior. I have a choice of a gold coin or a crystal, and definitely going with the crystal. I've got a plan to go after my level 1 improvement card that I left in the market. Time to advance the horde trays. So let's go ahead and move the only one in play. It will move into the same space my heroes, displacing them, so I'll choose where I want to put them. Now let's go ahead and pick up all of our tower cards and hero cards back into our hand. Also, I'm not going to forget the fact that I'm going to gain a skull token based on the fact that we were able to take out trays surrounding or on where Bruxa currently was. Now, I can only take 1 skull token in this case because I currently have 3 on my tray, and you can never have more than 4. But this is great because she's going to be at her strongest for the final round. So I know exactly what I want to buy based on the fact that I love this blast damage and the fact I upgraded it recently. I'm going to pay 2 of my crystals in order to repurchase this one with the improvement on it for this final round. I'm going to put it in Ulrich's hand. All right, here we go. Let's see how this last one pans out, starting with spawn number 1. Okay, there comes the pain. And as you can see, we already have some of these elemental nasty creatures sitting in this space, so they are going to stay put, and this next tile is going to jump right over top and be placed right here, which is uncomfortable for me. And then now we're going to spawn from the very top up here, and oh my gosh, there's so many of them. So this is going to be wild last turn, because remember how this works is, even though these things in normal Kingdom Rush, especially in the base game where you're playing the first initial scenarios, most of them are just, hey, as long as you keep these things away from your kingdom, you're safe. At the end of this scenario in Elemental Uprising, if I do not cover these things up, they are all going to move forward, whatever is not killed off, into the kingdom and throw damage at me, and I can only take 5. And these big time creatures can hit for 4 just by themselves, so that is a little terrifying. I'm definitely going ahead and activating Bruxa first. So she's going to activate. She has 4 tokens on her board, which means I get 4 1x1 damage tiles to place, which is going to be awesome, and she'll be able to place them either here or here. And then because she has 4 tokens, I'll remove 3, keeping 1, and that will allow me to put another 2 times 1 tile on either this space or this space. I just have some decisions in terms of placement. All right, so the damage has all been placed. My next move is going to be to take my hero and move her into one of these positions. I'm thinking about sitting myself right here on this tile that allow me to hit one of the really tough enemies for 1 of its little spots, as well as take out 3 of the little ones. And then with her facing this way, as I've chosen to do after moving, I'm going to have her do her basic attack for a 2 times 1 down here. So that's it for her. I'm feeling pretty good because her abilities are insane. They're super, super helpful. And now we're going to think about what we were going to do with Ulrich, and we'll likely end up using his Sand Warriors as well to kind of come in and deal some pain out there as well. So what I'm going to do is have Ulrich actually activate, and I'll likely bring him in. Ooh, this is a tough call as to whether I want him here or over here. I'm going to have Ulrich move into this position, and instead of dropping his 2 Sand Warriors for this last round, which isn't going to save anybody because right now both my heroes are at full health anyway, and they only would be able to cover up a spot each, I'd rather do his basic attack, which can cover 3 spots. It'd be a little bit more useful for me. All right, so we're looking pretty good here. Now we have to make use of our towers to see whether we can get all the damage on that we need. So long as we can cover everything up and nothing squeaks through that's too powerful, we should be okay. Let's see how this pans out. We still got lots of holes everywhere up here. We got 2 up here, 2 over here, a bunch over here. And again, it only takes 1 of these gaps on one of these tough monsters to come through at the end of the round and deal 4 damage. That's how tight this situation is. I need to cover everything up, or at the bare minimum allow maybe 1 tough monster to get through, and I can survive with a single heart. I could pull that off. I'm going to have Ulrich here play this Eldritch one right here. It's going to allow me to put a 2x1 in any of these spaces of these 2, and then also a 1x1 and another 1x1. Next one that Ulrich is going to play is a Stone Circle, the one I just bought actually for my improvement back at level 1. This is great because it puts a 2x1, which I can place right here in the very, very bottom, and then the additional one will go here, and another one is going to go over here. Last thing Ulrich will do is place this Boulder Circle with true damage, which doesn't really matter about the true damage part, but this is going to do an attack of a 2x1 over here. I'm definitely going to cover up this little weak enemy right here, plus a portion of that tough enemy. So at this point, based on the towers around me and what I have in Ulrich's hands, and I don't have any more soldiers I can put on top of any of these towers for him, so he's pretty much exhausted everything he can do. I got this 1 card here, but there's nowhere I can play it that's going to give me any kind of benefit right now. So we're moving over to Bruxa to see if she can finish things off. So Brux is going to go ahead and play this boulder circle right here. That's going to allow her to place a 2x1 in this location, which is pretty good because even though one spot is going to be wasted, it's certainly going to help. We'll go ahead and just block up one of the corners in the back here. And then next up, I'm going to take the warden barracks for her and place it right on top. That'll place 2 of the soldiers out, and I'm going to go ahead and definitely place them on the 2 last remaining spots for this tile. The splash damage won't matter because I can't use it onto the adjacent tile over here, so that's not going to matter. And then what we're going to do is play a couple cards on this one over here to hopefully finish things off. So I'm going to play the Ranger Barracks first. This one's the highest rated, well, not the highest, level 4 is even higher than this, but the highest rated one I have for the scenario, which lets you put out 2 individuals and do some wonderful slash damage as well, or I should say splash damage. We're going to go ahead and just place 1 there and 1 over here. And just for fun, because we're down to the last, 3 cards we have, Bruxa sets her watchers on the wall, and they are going to go ahead and make use of this long-range perfect shot by taking away a 1x1 square of this 3x1, making it a 2x1 shot, and this can then go the distance all the way over here and hit. Now, I didn't have to do this, but it was kind of fun to take it down from a kill shot from a long distance. I could have also technically found a way to make use of this tile right here, which would have worked to place right on top of the barracks here, and that would have put an L shape in there that would have worked as well. But that's it. I've only got this card left with Bruxa, and I had Ulrich just had this one. So we were really down to the literal last cards in our hand in order to cover this all up, but we did it. We're successful, and this was at the 3-star difficulty, and we just made it. So anyway, I hope that this helps you make an informed decision on Elemental Uprising, and you got to see a lot of the new mechanics in the game and the abilities, the different towers, and especially some of the heroes, which have become very, very unique and also very useful. And you also have seen some of the strategies that can be employed in order to pull off a win. So thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, keep on rolling solo.